I know you like what is tried and true, what has been, proven to actually work. What are some of the technological tools that you think hold real value in the training and the coaching realm in 2020?
I mean, I can really only speak from my experiences, and I've personally gotten the most value out of working with force plates. I've got a lot of value. Like for years, I used my jump, and that was the only piece of equipment that I had, and it's obviously better than nothing. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of different things, from the gym wears to the Nord boards to the groin bars and all that kind of stuff. But the force plates tell you so much about an athlete. You can test so many different things with them. I think that'll probably stick for a while.
What is the main thing you look for, or the things you look for when you're working with a new athlete and you have force plates available? What kind of data are you going to go towards, and what is it going to tell you, and how is it going to orient your coaching process?
It depends, of course, on what kind of athlete you're working with and what you're trying to find. Generally, so let's say you have an athlete that needs explosive upper body movements. For instance, you could do stuff such as ballistic push-ups on there, see how that's going to relative to body weight. If you have someone where vertical power expression is very important for them in their sport, so almost all sports, you could do a myriad of jump tests. You could do maximal strength testing on there with squatting or isometric mid-thigh pulls and get a dynamic strength index there. If you combine it with jumping, like there are so many different tools. It just depends on what kind of athlete you are working with and what you're trying to understand about them as the athlete.
What is one of the harder things that you've been trying to figure out recently using those force plates, that you have a hinge as to what might be going on or how you might be able to improve a certain quality, but you're not quite there yet. You're still in the process of figuring it out. Something you're exploring right now using those force plates?
I think something interesting is, so basically throughout the season, I'll gather jump data. I think one of the interesting things is development of jump data in jump heights, or development of jump height in athletes. And then how they're RSI modified. So basically how much time they take to get to that jump height, how that kind of goes along during that same time span, right? So for instance, I have a group of under 23 players, and I focus a lot on strength development because I feel like that's a big bucket that's lacking within football athletes specifically. So let's say I am working there on maximal strength development. What does that do with their jump profile, right? Does it change? So for instance, I'm seeing massive improvements in jump height, right? But then maybe does their RSI modified slightly go down, as in does their time to create that impulse now change because their strategies are being altered because they're now able to produce more mean force, right? That could be something that you could see, is that now they are used to producing force over a large range of motion slowly, that they then start to apply that same thing into jumping, where the movement are very similar to, let's say, if we're getting better at squatting. So that's something that's really interesting to me, is seeing over time whether when someone gets stronger in the beginning, their jump profile kind of changes to this slower wind up to get to a certain height. And my thought is, yes, that if you have a lot of strength training, that the athletes are going to take more time to generate jump height, but their jump heights will improve. Then the question is, what then happens if you've reached like that level of strength that you want to get to, that you then start to do more stretch shortening cycle based exercises or plyometric exercise, that you then see that time necessary to generate the impulse go back down again, but the jump height stays the same. And then in the end, you've improved an athlete based on one of the KPIs, which would be RSI modified then. So that's kind of my thought process here, but it's also difficult to do in a setting where, I mean, I'm not block periodizing. Like I'm not, just taking 3 months of this and then 3 months of that. So
I was going to say, are you only doing strength training with them and no jumping, no flyers, no nothing else?
You're not allowed to play sports.
No running, guys. Only squats.
Fuck winning. Like, we don't care about that. No. So that's the hard part, but that's kind of like a hunch I have. Like, okay, if we're at this level and we increase strength here, maybe that changes jump strategy. I think that's kind of cool to dive into. Nothing I'll be able to publish, of course, but it's good for my own experiences.
Yeah, we have to stay, scientists at our own level and play with things as we can and learn in the process. On the other side of that coin, of the technological tools coin, what are some of the maybe popular tools that are used right now that you think are maybe useless, or maybe, let's use a slightly nicer term, that are not as useful as people make them to be?
80% of the recovery modalities you'll find.
What's the 20%? What's your 20%?
So recovery modalities. Let's see. They're called food, sex, sleep, and happiness.
Yeah, I was going to say the obvious ones.
Yeah, it's like all the other stuff is trivialities. But hey, placebo is friggin' real.
Right.
So if you believe in something, it's going to add value if you think it works.
Mm-hmm.
I think, stuff like the lights, I don't even know what they're called, like the little light bulbs that you then have to touch.
I think they're called Blaze Pods, and the only reason I know is that I still haven't disabled that fucking ad off of my Instagram, but I think that's what they're called.
Yeah, it's like you see people, like literally you'll see football players, so soccer players for the Americans, you'll see them like in a high plank on their hands, and then they kind of like have to bear crawl to one of those or react, and then go back and react to another one. I'm like, someone is saying, oh yeah, this is supposed to, this is going to help with agility because it helps you with decision making. I'm like, yeah, that is real specific to the context of your sport there. So
you might as well be juggling circus balls.
Literally on a Bosu ball while throwing kettlebells.
You didn't have to go there, Yoeri. Why'd you have to bring the Bosu into this?
Speaking of stuff that won't leave.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there.
It still is.
What about? Is there any other ones on your mind that you think are overrated right now?
Nothing off the top of my head. I try to keep it simple and stay away from a lot of the technology stuff, unless it's more for measuring things. So like stuff like the gym wear, Nord boards, groin bars, force decks, like that's for measuring purposes. Yeah. And then influence the training process instead of like all these technological tools for the training process itself. I don't use much stuff there. And I really nothing that comes off the top of my head besides the little light pods.